We know that section B component for 2017 biology, right? We're looking at the module 1 component first, right? So within this component, the first question really asks us to compare the cell size and three structural features between the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. We know that for the prokaryotic cell, it's generally from the 0.1 to around 0.5 microns or micrometers in size, right? Or somebody generally says that some textbooks just allow us to talk about just below 4 microns, while the eukaryotic cell tends to be from around 4 or 5 microns to around 100 microns, right, for the eukaryotic cell. Right, so generally, right, the eukaryotic cells are much larger than the prokaryotic cells, and the structural features as well. We know that the prokaryotes will contain our 70S ribosomes, right, while the eukaryotes will have the 80S ribosomes, right? The prokaryotes would generally lack large, complex, well, relatively large and complex organelles, right? Non-membrane, and they would have non-membrane bone organelles as well. The eukaryotes will have membrane bone organelles. Okay. All right. Any other differences? Here we're gonna have genetic material is stored within a plasmid in the cytosol, right? And for the eukaryotes, they're generally found as chromatin,
Yeah.
right, within the nuclear membrane, right? Lovely. So we're just discussing those things, all right, within complete sentences for that question there. Outline the endosymbiont theory. So we know the endosymbiont theory is basically speaking about the fact that somewhere, right, so within some primordial ocean or so, with some primordial environment, prokaryotes generally were the thing of the day, right? And some prokaryotes would have been consuming other prokaryotes, and well, for basically competition predation, right? But somewhere along the way, endocytosis occurred, and one prokaryote decided to keep the other smaller prokaryote within itself because it was more advantageous than to actually lyse and destroy, right, that other prokaryote, right? So we're looking at the fact that we're saying that eukaryotic cells, right, emerge, right, have emerged from those um, primordial prokaryotes that would have consumed other prokaryotes and kept them within themselves, right? So if we're keeping those prokaryotes within ourselves, now we need to actually trap our main genetic information within a nuclear membrane. And what we're looking at now, we're explaining how characteristics of mitochondria and chloroplast will provide evidence for this, right? We know the mitochondria and the chloroplast would have double membranes, right? And this suggests an origin from endocytosis, right? We know that they would contain ribosomes, which suggests that somewhere along the evolutionary timeline, they would be causing their own production of proteins, right? Right, and we know that somewhere along the way, we're looking at the fact that they contain genetic information, right? We're looking at mitochondrial and cytoplasmic DNA. So those are some things that we have there. So we know that mitochondrial DNA our mitochondrial DNA is generally constant, right? And if we track all our mitochondrial DNA, it would lead towards, right, one primordial mother, right? So all our mitochondrial DNA stems from generally one human. That's how they can generally trace the human species evolving through speciation from Eastern Africa. That is how they traced it back there and realized that all humans are really, all Homo sapiens, right, are really one recurring species, right, originating within Eastern Africa. So we track the mitochondrial DNA, and if the mitochondrial DNA is constant, that means that it's traced back from one type of mitochondria, right? So we're looking at the DNA specifically, right? And within the chloroplast as well, we have chloroplastic DNA. We have ribosomes existing within them. They are double membrane organelles as well, right? They're relatively large compared to other organelles as well. You could speak to that. They contain their own cytosol, right? So you could speak to that as well, right? Many different characteristics that support the endosymbiotic theory. Okay. And then we're moving into the module 2 component of section B of the 27